Thank you everyone for joining today. Today's webinar is going to be on the topic of payments, refunds, and reports, primarily focusing in on the different payment processing options, specifically credit card payment processing options that ClubExpress has to offer. I will go ahead right at the top, and when I say credit card payment options, that does also include payments made through things like Google Pay or Apple Pay, and even ACH transactions. And at the end of today's webinar, we'll talk about how to enable those kind of three alternative payment options. But really, we're focusing on the differences between basic payments and premium payments. So those are the two kind of payment options that ClubExpress has rolled out in recent months. It's both of them use the Stripe payment processor, but basic payments uses the Stripe dashboard to process payments, whereas the uh, premium payments option uses a built-in tool, so you don't have to interact with the Stripe dashboard. All right, let's get right into it. So, a bit of an overview at the top. Let's talk about what things we're going to be covering today. So, again, we're focusing in on payment options with ClubExpress. So, we've got our basic payments options and our premium payments options. Both of them use the Stripe processor as the back-end way to process credit cards. Those are the only two payment options for processing credit cards going forward. I know there are some organizations with us that are grandfathered into older methods, but those are over time being kind of grandfathered out of the system. But there's no plans to remove those options from current users. But we are going forward only offering basic payments and premium payments for credit card processing. The biggest differences between our two different payment offers are the processing fees. So basic payments has a lower processing fee than our premium payments does. So if you're interested in saving a little bit of money on those processing fees, you can always switch to the basic option. Another difference is the way that you pull reports. So basic payments, you get most of your ClubExpress reports done through the Stripe dashboard. So if you're looking for like bank account reports, it details on what funds are being sent to your bank account. Those for basic payments, those are pulled through Stripe, the Stripe dashboard. Whereas on premium payments, the reporting is actually done through ClubExpress. So you don't have to leave your ClubExpress website to find any of those bank account reports. On both of them, all of your transaction details are still both on the ClubExpress reports. So you don't need to worry about, being able to access what transactions have been processed, what's been paid. All of that information is all on ClubExpress. The main difference when it comes to reporting between basic and premium is, again, just those bank account details. The bank account details are only going to be visible on the Stripe dashboard for basic payments users. Another difference between the two is the payout schedule. So with basic payments, you can actually control your payout schedule. You can do things like every other day, every week, every month. You can control that. You can customize that by reaching out to the support team. Whereas with premium payment options, it is locked into the 10th, 20th, and last business day of the month. So every month on the 10th of the month, you will get a payout. On the 20th of the month, you'll get a payout. And then the very last business day is the final payout for that month. So with ClubExpress, it's just 3 times a month with the premium payment options. And then the last difference between basic and premium is the refund process. So when you're talking about basic and premium, there are two different ways to refund someone. So if someone has a transaction that gets canceled or something falls through for any number of reasons, if a credit card transaction or a ACH transaction needs to be refunded, that process is handled slightly different depending on whether or not you are using basic or premium. So if you're on basic, once again, that is something you would refund that payment through the Stripe dashboard, and we'll be going through that process a little bit later. On premium payments, you can actually do the entire refund process from within ClubExpress. So you don't have to go to like a second website or second location. We're also going to talk about how to access, and we're going to take a look through the Stripe dashboard. So we'll look at the reporting options provided in the Stripe dashboard. We'll take a look at a bit of navigation. We'll walk entirely through that refund process. And then for premium, we're going to do the same thing. We'll talk about the reports that are only available through premium. We'll talk about the refund process through premium, and we'll do a quick example. And then finally, towards the end, we'll talk about alternative payment methods. So we'll talk about Google Pay, Apple Pay, and ACH and how to get those turned on. I've got the Q&A pulled up over here, so I'll answer questions throughout if I see them. But very quickly, I know I just briefly talked about the payout schedule. So up here, one of the differences between basic and premium, if you're a basic user and you want to change your payout schedule, that's something that Club Express handles. So we just have to change that setting behind the scenes. So you can reach out to Club Express support and say, hey, what are my payout options? Again, I think it's pretty much you can either choose it every certain number of days, you can do it weekly, you can do it bi-weekly or monthly. So you can reach out to Club Express support and say, hey, what are my options for changing my payout schedule? It's not something you can actually change on the Stripe dashboard itself, but it's something that we can change for you on your account. Oh, I just noticed. Sorry, one thing I did leave off on this. It'll show up later in my slide deck. One bullet point I left off on the basic versus premium is a pretty major difference between basic and premium is the option to divvy out funds to different bank accounts. So if you are a basic user, if you're using the Stripe Basic or the Club Express Basic Payments option, it only has the ability to submit funds to one bank account. If you are using the premium payments option, there is a tool you can use to pay those funds out to multiple bank accounts. For a lot of organizations, that doesn't matter, but for a handful of organizations, it's very, very important because they're organizations with things like chapters or subgroups or bank accounts for events funds, things like that. When you're using the premium payment option, there is an option to say, all of my funds for events go into this bank account. All of my funds for my, Northeast chapter go into one bank account. With the premium payments option, those are, you can actually divvy those funds out so that they're automatically directed into the correct account without you having to, manually do transactions from bank account to bank account or anything like that. All right, so let's get into a bit of a demonstration and let's talk through things. So again, let's go into a little bit more detail about those primary differences. So with basic payments, the primary benefits of basic payments are going to be specifically, and this is probably the biggest one for most of our organizations, is lower fees. Club Express doesn't charge any like monthly fee or anything like that for processing credit cards. The only fees you pay when you're processing credit cards with Club Express is just a per transaction fee. I will head over to the Club Express website in just a second to show you those fees as they currently are. I'm not going to put it up in the slide deck because again, they are occasionally subject to change, and we'll talk about, changing fees here in just a couple minutes. We try not to change them very often. Usually once we set a fee, it stays that way for several years. But there is a slight change in the fee coming up May 1st. So you've probably all seen the email about it. And we will continue to notify people about it as it approaches. It's not it's the same fee that you see on clubexpress.com right now. So it's not changing from that at all anytime soon. But the basic payments fee is 2.99% of the transaction plus 30 cents. So if we head over to clubexpress.com, I'm going to change my screen share really quickly, and then I'll come back to the slideshow so that we can all see what those fees are as we talk about them. Let me change my screen share. So all of this information is directly on the Club Express website. So if you go to clubexpress.com, you'll see pricing as an option in the upper right. And then under payment processing, you'll see we have our different rates laid out here for you. So if you are processing credit cards with the premium payment processor, you'll see the fee for new organizations is 3.99% plus 30 cents. So that's each credit card transaction is going to incur that fee. Most of the people in this webinar are probably existing customers. And if that's the case, you'll see that if you were with Club Express before this went into effect, you get grandfathered into a slightly lower rate. So your premium payments are going to be 3.15% of the transaction plus 30 cents per transaction. The lower fee you get with Club Express Basic is going to be 2.99% across the board. So that's just if you're using the Stripe dashboard option, if you're using that basic payments option, the fee is 2.99%. And again, these fees lock in as of May 1st. So keep that in mind here. You'll notice that we have a slightly different processing fee for ACH payments. We're going to talk about ACH payments again at the end, but this is also where you can go and see that. Whether you're using basic or premium, the fee for ACH, so direct bank account transfer process, is the same. And that is a lower fee by percentage, but you'll notice it has a higher minimum fee. So it's going to be a fee of $1 minimum, and then a maximum fee of $100 depending on the size of your transactions. But if you have, I think someone did the math for me a little bit ago. If you're paying something in the ballpark of $60 or more, ACH is actually going to incur lower fees than credit card transactions. So if you're doing, $100 or more transactions or anything like that, you're going to save quite a bit of money by encouraging your users to use the ACH processing option. But this is where you can find those fees. Again, the premium payment fee goes up for current users to 3.15% plus 30 cents on May 1st. Let's go back to my slideshow. Again, you can find this on clubexpress.com by clicking on pricing and say, so if we just take that route right here, click on pricing, we're going to click see other pricing. Payment processing is how you can get to that. So you can always come here and check on our rates. Again, we try not to change our rates. Usually it's several years between rate changes. So this change is going into effect on May 1st, and it should be locked into this price for quite some time to come. Let's go ahead and switch back to our slideshow and talk about the rest of our differences between basic and premium. So another difference between the basic payments option and the premium payments option, this is a pretty big one for a lot of users, is the Stripe dashboard. So the Stripe dashboard comes with a lot of changes between basic and premium. The Stripe dashboard is where you go to do a lot of things in regards to the payments that get processed for your basic payments. So when someone runs a credit card or an ACH transaction, the payment will show up on your Stripe dashboard. It'll get tagged. It'll show information like the payment ID as well as the user's name. And you can see reports from there about that payment. Now, the Stripe dashboard is really only concerned with the payment, not the full transaction details. So you're not going to get reporting on the Stripe dashboard for things like, okay, they registered for an event. What activities did they sign up? How much did it cost per activity? It's just going to really focus in on the actual amount of the final payment. And the Stripe dashboard is also where you'll go and get details about how much was deposited into your bank. And that's really that sticking point. That's where the biggest difference in reporting comes is with premium payments, you can get detailed reports of, sorry, I didn't mean to skip forward a slide. With premium payments, you can get detailed reports of what went into and why they were charged certain amounts for that bank account transaction. So you can see every amount that's deposited into your bank account. You can see a breakdown of where those funds are coming from. Whereas with basic payments on that Stripe dashboard, it's just going to tell you, this is how much was deposited into your bank. And this is just the payment details, not the transaction details that went into that deposit. So it's a bit of a limitation there as opposed to the premium option. The Stripe dashboard is also where we will do things like processing refunds. So if we wanted to process a refund for a payment, we would have to go to a secondary website, just a second location, dashboard.stripe.com. We would log into our account, and that's where we would go to manage our refunds as well if we need to refund a particular transaction. Again, we'll be walking through that. We did already talk about the customized payout schedule. So again, with basic payments as opposed to premium payments, you get that customized payout schedule. And you get that refund process that's handled on a separate website. So all of that is in regards to the Stripe dashboard. With premium payments, we just talked about those fees. So you're going to pay a slightly higher per transaction fee with premium payments. But in exchange for that, you get the option where all of your kind of monetary reports and functions are managed through your ClubExpress website. You're not having to go to a second platform. The built-in reports give you greater details. So those bank deposit details reports are going to give you things like what the transactions were. So you can see details of like if someone signs up for an event and pays their membership at the same time with one payment, the detailed reports in the premium payments option are going to give you that breakdown, whereas the Stripe dashboard doesn't have the ability to kind of see that information. Again, it's all in-house when you use the premium payment option. So the built-in refund process, the refunds are actually handled right on the ClubExpress platform instead of having to open up, say, like another tab to a different website. Um, and then finally, I talked about just a second ago, we have that ability to pay out funds to multiple bank accounts. So we can set up financial accounts for things like our events. We can set up financial accounts for different chapters or subgroups. And we can say any funds that are processed towards our events or towards this specific event or towards this specific chapter, those funds are going to automatically get deposited into a particular bank account instead of having to move that money between bank accounts later. Again, most of our organizations aren't looking for that specific functionality. Most organizations just have one bank account that all of their funds flow into. So that's a really big deal for a small portion of our customers. But for those of for those that need it, it's very, very crucial. So now let's take a dive into the Stripe dashboard. Let's actually switch to a screen share and let's talk about what that looks like. Let's take a walk through it. So I'm going to share my screen again. And this time I'm going to be sharing the home screen for a test environment that we use for the Stripe dashboard. Let me share my screen. So this is the Stripe dashboard for a test club that we have. All the transactions here are fake. All the credit card numbers here are fake. So you don't need to worry about me sharing any secret private information. But if we take a look at the Stripe dashboard, this is where we land when we first take a look at the dashboard. We're going to see kind of our home screen with a really basic overview with things like payouts. So we can see we had a recent payout on April 7th of $172. Where I like to go directly when I'm on the Stripe dashboard is usually either the transactions page or the balances page. So on the left side of your Stripe dashboard, you have your navigation. The homepage is useful. It's great for like at a glance to see, hey, our funds being processed. But if I'm wanting details, I usually jump straight to my transactions page. So if we head over to the left side again, below home, we'll see transactions. And this is where we can see just a list of all of our transactions that are being processed and being run on the website. So we can see all the details of the amounts. We can see whether the transaction was successful. Just to put you at ease, if a transaction is ever not successful, so if it's declined or doesn't go through for some reason, it won't let it process on the ClubExpress side as well. So if someone tries to make a payment and that card is declined, it's not going to say it's paid on ClubExpress and then say it's declined here. If it declines here, then it declines on the ClubExpress side as well. You'll see details about the payments that were processed. You'll see the reference number. You'll see the name of the person who submitted it. You can see customer details like email. You'll see the date that it was processed. You can also see a little section that says refund date, and that's if the process has been refunded at all. It'll show the date and how much of it was refunded. One thing we get asked a lot is, obviously this doesn't use the same reporting tools. This is using the Stripe dashboard, which, was built by Stripe, not built by ClubExpress. And so the reporting looks a little bit different than people are used to on ClubExpress. There's two primary reports that I usually point people to help them kind of get around and compare the information on their Stripe dashboard to the information they're getting from ClubExpress reports. So if you want to get information, there's two locations. One is the transactions export. So when Stripe says transactions, when we're kind of talking about the difference between Stripe and ClubExpress, when Stripe says transactions on the ClubExpress side, we mean payments. So if I wanted to compare this Stripe export to a ClubExpress report, what I normally do is I head over to transactions on the Stripe dashboard, and then I'll choose the export option on this page. So right here at the upper right-hand corner, there's an export option. I leave my transactions set to all over here in the top left, and I'll hit export. And then I can either customize the payment date, or I can, say the last 7 days or last month or something like that. Usually I'll set it to custom or all. And what I'll do is I'll just run that export and it'll download an Excel file of the details for all of these transactions that we're looking at right here. And on the ClubExpress side, so I'm going to head over to the ClubExpress website. So this is our basic payments. This is the website that is connected to this Stripe dashboard. Over on this website, the report I'll want to run and compare that to is in the Money tab of my control panel. If I go to Reports, the report I like to run is user payments right here, the last option on the Money tab, Reports, and user payments right there. That's what I'm usually running to compare to these Stripe transactions that we're exporting. Now, that does not contain any transaction info, so it's not going to be a one-to-one on things like, was it paid for an event? Was it paid for a donation? That is one of the limitations that we get when we're going with Club Express Basic, is it doesn't have the full kind of contextual reporting that we see with most of the Club Express built-in reportings. So that user payments option, when we run it, it's going to ask us, I want to just run for credit card payments. And then again, we would just choose the same date range that we're using over here on this Stripe dashboard export. So for those of you who are looking to kind of do some reconciliation and make sure that all of the payments that are processed on Club Express are showing up on your Stripe dashboard, that's my first comparison that I usually run. The other reconciliation report that I like to point out to people on the Stripe dashboard, and I mentioned this just a second ago, is on the balances page here. So when we look at the balances page, this is going to be, instead of a view of all of the payments made on your website, it's going to be a view all of the payments paid from the Stripe dashboard into your bank account. So you can see here are the list of recent payouts that we've gotten from Stripe into our bank account, and you can choose any of these to see the details of the payments that contributed to that payout. So if we click on any of these payouts here, you can scroll down, you'll see it'll show you the transactions that were processed that led to that. So in this case, it's just, one specific transaction. You'll see the fee amount that was charged based on those fees that we were talking about a little bit earlier. So with Stripe Basic, that's, 2.99% plus 30 cents per transaction. And we can also export this to compare it to our bank deposits. So this is, showing the entire total payout less the amount of the fees. We can export that to take a look at all of the payments that led to a particular bank account deposit from Stripe. There's a few other options I like to point out on the Stripe dashboard. I will say a lot of the functions on the Stripe dashboard are more focused towards if you're using the Stripe dashboard for other options. So you can use it for things like in-person payments. If you wanted to collect payment like directly from someone's credit card, that doesn't communicate to Club Express in any way. So some of the functions on the dashboard are irrelevant. So things like the product categories, there's no reason for your Club Express Stripe dashboard to have any products, because all the products are actually coming from the Club Express website. So there's going to be a few sections of the Stripe dashboard that are mostly irrelevant. But you can also come down and do interesting things. A lot of people get stuck because they come straight to reporting when they're looking for reports. And there are some useful options here. So there's things like getting, payout reconciliations and balance summaries. These are useful reports, but they're essentially going to give you the same data that we were just looking at on the balances and transactions page. And it saves a little bit of time just by clicking the export option over there. So we can come in here and say, like, I want a balance summary. We can fill in the time period that we're looking for, and then we can print that report. It gives us essentially the same data that we were looking at on the balances and transactions page. So for most people, I encourage you just to run the exports from balances and transactions. It's a little bit faster, a little bit cleaner data than the other Stripe dashboard reports that you'll find here. The other thing I want to show you while we're on our Stripe dashboard is the refund process. So if you were to, say, have someone who processes a transaction on your Club Express website, now this is a test environment, so not all of the bells and whistles kind of work because it's not an actual functional website. But if we were to have someone cancel a transaction, let's say they canceled an event they signed up for, or they made a storefront purchase that needed to be canceled and refunded, with the Stripe dashboard, there is an extra step that we need to be aware of. So when someone, say we come over here and look for our member, I set up a little basic member. When we find that person in our people manager, if someone has an outstanding credit, you can usually see that by going to their profile and clicking on payment credit history. You'll see that credit there for any canceled transactions. I just set up a little test credit here. Once that paid transaction is canceled, it should issue them a credit. We can then go to our Stripe dashboard and send them a refund for that if it was paid by credit card. So if we come back to our Stripe dashboard over here, Where we would find that transaction to refund, if we head over to transactions, we can either just, look for it, by searching through and looking for our person. We can also search for it by sorting by things like our description. We can search for a reference number of the transaction. But normally what I'll do is I'll just kind of come through here. I can page through, sort by date, page through, find the date of the transaction. And what I do to refund is I come over to that transaction. Let's say I want to refund a portion of this payment that's right here at the top. So this $175 payment. If only a portion of it needs to be refunded, we can refund just a small part of it, or we can refund it in its entirety. To refund a transaction on the Stripe dashboard, what we do is we just come over to the three dots on the very end over here. And there's an option under action that says refund payment. And then that's really all we have to do is we just say we want to refund. It's going to send that back to their bank account. It usually takes 3 to 5 business days for that to process. But we can also change the amount we want to refund. So if they, paid $175 for membership and a $75 event, so let's say $100 was their membership, they don't want that refunded. $75 was signing up for an event. We can change the amount here and say I only want to refund them the $75 for that event. And then we would just hit refund. We can give it a reason, hit refund, and it will start the refund process to send it back to their credit card. The important thing to know is that the relationship between Stripe and ClubExpress, the data relationship there, is really only tracking payment information. And it's only tracking payment information that ClubExpress sends to Stripe. Stripe does not send much information back to ClubExpress at all. So once I process this refund, it doesn't actually tell ClubExpress that that refund has been processed. So in a scenario where I have refunded, say, a $25 transaction, I would then need to go to the ClubExpress side and make sure that I mark that transaction on the ClubExpress side as refunded manually. Because again, Stripe doesn't send that information back to ClubExpress to tell us that it's been refunded. If we were to forget that we needed to mark it as refunded on the ClubExpress side, it presents the chance for a member to kind of double dip into a canceled transaction because we would be sending the money back to their credit card, but they might still have that credit sitting on their profile. And the next time they process a transaction, it will give them the option to pay for that transaction with their outstanding credit. So we want to make sure that we both process the refund on the Stripe dashboard side, again, by clicking on whatever transaction needs to be canceled. We click refund payment and we choose how much of it, all of it or a portion of it that we want to refund. And then over on the ClubExpress side, we need to go find that corresponding transaction that has a credit for a canceled payment, and we need to mark it as refunded. Normally, we just click the pencil and hit refund, and that would refund that transaction. So that's really the whole process as it is right there. The other thing you can do is instead of going through the member's profile, another way to find outstanding credits is to go over to the money tab of the control panel and clicking on open credits. This will show you all of the outstanding credits. So there's that same credit we were just looking at in this person's profile, but instead it's over here in the open credits page. And we can do the same thing. We can click on that pencil. We say select action and we are marking it as refunded. Again, because we're using the ClubExpress basic payments option, choosing select action refund, if we were to save this, it just marks it as refunded and zeroes it out. On the basic payments option, refunding it from here does not start the process of refunding it to their credit card. The only process that refunds it to their credit card is the option that we process from the Stripe dashboard itself. So now let's take a step away from the Stripe dashboard. Let's take a look at the premium payments option. So with premium payments, we have the option to do refunds directly on the website. We have more detailed reports, and we have the option to divvy funds to different bank accounts. So let's kind of get into what I mean by refunds in-house. So it's an entirely different refund process when we're doing things with premium payments. With premium payments, let me share my screen one more time. Let me switch to my premium payments website. So I'm now going to go to a different test website. This is an entirely different website, and this website is set up to use the premium payments option. With premium payments, the process for refunding does not run the risk of allowing people to double dip into a refund. The way the process would work is we would head into a member's profile and any oh, I got logged out. Whoops, daisies. Okay, there we go. We would go into a member's profile and we would head into their transaction history and we would either cancel a transaction. So we have our little miscellaneous charge here. We can see the little trash can option and we can say, I want to cancel that transaction. If it's a credit card payment, the delete option won't show up. If it's a cash or check option, then there's not a way to refund to a credit card anyway. You just have to refund them with cash or check or some other payment option. But if it's a credit card option, the only option we'll see is to cancel, and we would choose to cancel that transaction. If it was paid by credit card, the system will automatically issue them a credit, just as before. So the whole process up to this point is relatively the same. We don't have to, just to kind of show the different ways that people cancel. We don't have to, as administrators, be the ones to cancel a transaction. People might cancel transactions on their own, especially with events. That is probably the most common canceled option we see, is that someone has signed up for an event and then they have canceled their own registration and the system automatically issues them a credit for that canceled transaction. So we can either manually cancel it ourselves, or if an event registration is canceled, then it does that whole process, assigns them a credit automatically. Once they have that credit in their payment credit history, you'll see that there is an outstanding credit. If you are going to refund their credit card while using the premium payments option, we actually have to go back to the control panel and go to that same open credits page. But while you're using premium payments, that open credits page is a little bit different. So we head over to the money tab of the control panel and we can head to open credits. On this page, when you're using premium payments, you'll see a couple extra options. You will see an option that says refund account, and you'll also see details about your current refund account balance. So the way this process works is essentially once we process those funds, we send them to your bank account. If you want to refund that amount, you have to essentially, hey, send us back that money and then we'll let you refund it. So you would say refund account, and then you can add funds to a refund account. So if you need to refund $25, let's say, you would say, I want to add $25 to my refund account. We already have some money in our little test refund account here, but as an example, we can say, I want to add $25 to my refund account so I can refund a $25 transaction, and you hit add to account. Regardless of how you process it, there's always going to be a little bit of a wait period, whether you're using premium payments or basic payments. The waiting time here is on this side. So we add $25 to our refund account, and it's going to take, I think, also 3 to 5 business days for that to go through. So it'll still say $0. It'll say pending. And it'll say $0 in your refund account until that clears. Once that clears, you should get an email notifying you, and you should see that it says $25 is in your refund account right here. And once that clears and you have money in your refund account, any credits that show up here that were incurred by credit card transactions or ACH transactions that were canceled, so like event registrations paid by credit card or ACH that were canceled, once you have enough in your refund account to refund that amount, you'll see an extra icon here. Now, I can't get that icon to work on our test site because we're not dealing with real money here, but you'll see an additional icon next to the pencil that will show a $ icon. You can click on that $ icon, and just like on our Stripe dashboard, very similarly, it'll ask you how much you want to refund and why. You'll type in, $25. You'll hit refund, and it will take money from that refund account to refund that person. And they should relatively quickly, I think it's another 3 to 5 business days, see it pop up in their bank account. So the process takes a few extra steps. You need to first add funds to your refund account and then use those funds to refund credit card transactions. So that's the process you go through on premium. The advantage of doing it this way is that at no point can a user double dip into those credits. So if I, again on basic, if I refund it through the Stripe dashboard and forget to manually zero out that credit, then they might have the option to double dip in it. Because it's all managed in house with a premium payments account, that credit will sit there. And then once I hit refund and I refund it through credit card, it'll automatically zero it out for me. So it does not give that member or that user the option to, get a credit card refund and use the credit. So there's much less room for user error, causing accounting headaches and things like that. So the other major difference with premium payments is reporting. You do get access to much more detailed reports with premium payments. So when you're dealing with premium payments, there's an additional report and additional details called remit collected funds. So when Club Express sends collected funds that were collected through the premium payments account to your bank account, because we are the ones actually collecting that and then we are the ones sending that out to you, we have all of the information necessary to create reports for you to show you those details. So we can actually go through the process of accessing those reports. And those reports will not only include the payment details of how much was sent to your bank account and how many payments, it'll also show you the transaction details and where those funds were coming from. So things like how much money we made from events, how much money we made from memberships, how much money we made from our storefront. And it'll kind of divvy that up for you in that report and show you in greater detail the amount and why you're having funds deposited into your bank account. So let's head over to our website again, and I'll show you how to access those reports and what you would be, the steps you'd be going through to access those reports and why and why those don't show up on basic. So if we head over to our demo website again, let's head back to the control panel. So in the control panel, we can head over to the money tab once again. And in the money tab, we can see bank account activity. You'll see under admin functions, you'll see bank account activity. Now, those of you who are using basic will still see bank account activity. It's just going to have less information for you. So if we click on bank account activity, this page is going to show a handful of things. It'll show all of your current bank accounts. It'll show it'll show a time period that you can select to search from, and it'll show transaction types. Under transaction type, there's three potential bank account interactions between your bank and ClubExpress. There's collect fees, which is your monthly hosting fee. So those of you who have, very few members, you probably pay that minimum $30 monthly hosting fee. Those of you who have more members, you might pay a variable hosting fee, and you can see that information there. For users of basic, you're pretty much only going to see collect fees. You're not going to see remit collected funds because we aren't the ones sending the funds to your bank account. It is the Stripe dashboard that is doing that. You'll also see other that'll only ever really be used if you're doing things like signing up for additional cost modules. So those of you who use things like ad hoc reporting or any of our other extra cost modules, those fees will show up here as an other account. So collect fees, those are our monthly hosting fees. Other are just, miscellaneous transactions. And then you'll see the remit collected funds. And that is ClubExpress sending funds to your bank account. I don't believe we're actually able to. Oh, yeah, we can. So we can come here, and these are little test accounts that we've run, and we can see these are all remit collected funds that have been sent to our bank account. And you can see the dates that they took place on, what bank account those funds were submitted to, and how much it was for. But we also get this little icon out to the right. It's a little dollar sign with the I for details. If we click on that icon, we get multiple report options. Most of these just give us the basic details of how much went into our account, how much was withheld for fees. So again, those processing fees, you can see the details on them here. But the ones that I like, the report here that I like to point out to people is the bank deposit details. Now this report won't run because I'm on the test environment, so it's going to give me an error saying it's not a real report. It's not showing me real information. So I get a little error when I try to run that. But importantly, when you run the bank deposit details, it's going to give you a report that lays out not only how much was sent to your bank account, how much was withheld in fees, but it'll also lay out, these are from your events financial account. These are funds from your, membership financial account. These are funds from your storefront financial account. And then additionally, it'll show you the transaction description for each item that was contributing to that bank account detail. So you can see, you know, Susan and Jeff and Steve all signed up for, the rowing trip, and those funds are going, that contributed $500 towards this bank account detail or this bank account deposit. So you can get much greater detail on what funds are contributing to the amount that's going into your bank account. Again, because with premium, we are the ones processing that information and sending it to your bank account. We have all that detail to give you in reports. With the Stripe dashboard, when you search for remits on this page, it's just not going to show up because the remits are handled externally through that Stripe dashboard. Finally, the other thing that's going to show up with premium payments is the option to divvy funds via a financial account. So when we go back to our previous page, when we go to the control panel, we go to the money tab, you'll see there's two options down here under setup. There's an option called bank accounts, and there's an option called financial accounts. Under bank accounts, and because this is a test website, we have two fake bank accounts added. We'll see we have account one and a new account that we made our primary account. In most cases, the account that you set up is just your primary account. And for our basic users, all funds are pulled and deposited into your primary account. And your any additional accounts here are just kind of for records keeping. They're not going to be functional accounts. It's not going to have any effect adding multiple bank accounts here. For our premium users, if you're using the premium payments option, if you add additional bank accounts here, what you can do is you can go to your financial accounts page, and we have tons of superfluous financial accounts because we use this for testing. But on any financial account, you can come over here to the little pencil icon, and you can select a bank account. And we can say we want this to go to account one or account two or account three. So again, especially for organizations who have different funds for different types of events, or maybe different funds for their donations, or different funds for multiple chapters. So we can see, this is one of our chapters. We can say we want that to go into our chapter bank account. So that way I'm not having to go and manually, run reports to find out how much money that chapter should have received, and then manually send that chapter, that much money. Doing it this way, those funds are just automatically distributed to that bank account without me having to go and pull those reports and then, log into my bank profile and do a transfer or anything like that. So it's a pretty simple setup process. We just head over to bank accounts, add the bank account details, head over to financial accounts, and either add the financial account we want and associate it with a bank. And then whenever processes are being run, so if you're running an event, there's an option to say what financial account does this go to, and you can just select the financial account associated with the bank you want it to go into. The same is true for chapters. You can say this chapter has a specific financial account, and any funds that are processed in relation to that chapter automatically go to that chapter's bank account. All right. So the last thing I want to focus in on today is alternative payment methods. So I've talked a little bit about, ACH, which is the option to enter bank details instead of credit card details. And I've also mentioned very briefly at the top Google Pay and Apple Pay. So this actually works for both premium and basic payment options. But when you're on your money tab of your control panel, if you go down to money options, all the way at the bottom of the page, you will see the option to enable different payment options. So you've got the option to configure wallets and the option to configure direct debit payment. And these are simply just checkboxes. And you can check these off and hit save at the bottom of the page, and it will apply the option to pay. And you can also come and uncheck these at any time. Uh, a lot of people ask, are we, risking any data putting it, through this way? Apple and Google both use the same levels of security that we do. We encrypt the information on both ends. Really, it's just allowing people who use Android or Apple devices. So on Google Pay, anyone who's using Google Chrome or an Android device, they can store their credit card information on their either Chrome web browser or in their Android device. And it just gives them an option to enter that payment information a little bit easier. The same is true for Apple. So if someone is using a Mac or an iPhone or an iPad, they can store their credit card details on their device, and then it just makes that payment process a little bit faster, a little bit smoother, more seamless for them. And then slightly differently down here in the ACH option, this allows people to submit payments by entering direct debit bank accounts. So this only works for US based bank accounts, but you can enter bank details, so like routing and account number, and then your billing details, address, name, stuff like that. And it will, instead of running it through a credit card, just debit it directly from your bank account. So it's just an additional way for people to pay instead of using a credit card, and it comes with different fees. So once again, if you are processing, large sum transactions, it's actually going to save you a little bit of money to have people paying those large sum transactions by ACH as opposed to credit card. Now, because of that minimum $1 processing fee, it does actually cost a little bit more if you're doing many small transactions. So if you're selling things in the storefront for $10 or $15 and you do a large sum of those, I would encourage you to, either turn that off or encourage your members to use credit cards for those things. But if you're doing, ski trips or something like that, where it's in the, hundreds or thousands of dollars, the ACH payment is going to be definitely a money saver in that situation. All right, let's head over to a little bit of Q&A. And Evan, are there any questions or things that I can show heading into our Q&A?
One thing I would think would be what would be the best report or export that someone could run that would match what the bank account activity
So the
might be?
closest you could get with so if you're using Stripe Basic, so if you're using the ClubExpress basic payments processing and you have access to the Stripe dashboard, the closest you're going to get to the bank account details report is going to be up here in balances, and you'll see the individual payouts. So again, I'm gonna hop between two tabs here, but when we're looking at our premium website, so this is the premium payments website. If we come down here to our, let's say, bank account activity, and on the premium payments website, the report we're pulling to find details about a certain amount that was sent to our bank account is the bank deposit details. The most similar report that you'll get from the Stripe dashboard side is going to be looking at your bank deposits. And you can click on any of these. So we can see here's the $172 bank deposit that was submitted on April 7th. And if I click on that, I can see the details of that payment, and I can even export the transaction details, and it'll lay out, how much each payment was that contributed to it, how much fee was taken out of each payment, and then what the total amount of that bank deposit was. Again, the detail you're losing out on here is the transaction level detail. So things like what events did they sign up for? Was this for a membership as opposed to a donation, as opposed to, something else? So yeah, so that's the closest you can get to the bank account detail, the bank deposit details report that you'll see in the premium users is the balances report here for any particular bank deposit transfer. Um, I saw a couple questions for, what's if you can, achieve greater detail with QuickBooks exports. Um, not particularly greater or lesser amounts of detail with QuickBooks. It's essentially going to show the same data. So when ClubExpress connects to QuickBooks, QuickBooks is only getting ClubExpress data in that connection. QuickBooks is not tying directly into Stripe in that way. So you're really still just going to get the details that ClubExpress had, which is just was the transaction paid? How was it paid, and how, and what went into that transaction. But QuickBooks doesn't have the detail of, when was it submitted to my bank account, what was the bank account transfer information, um, things like that. QuickBooks isn't going to get that because, again, Stripe doesn't send that information back to us. So once we send that payment information to Stripe, Stripe handles the depositing of those funds entirely without ClubExpress getting involved. Um, I've seen a couple questions to go back on the details of the fees. So again, here's those processing fees. So for new accounts signing up, it's the premium fee is 3.99% plus 30 cents per transaction. For existing Club Express users who are using premium processing, it's going to be 3.15% plus 30 cents per transaction, and that goes into effect May 1st. And then for the basic processing fees, that is 2.99% plus 30 cents per transaction. And then if in either situation, if you are processing transactions with that ACH option, that is a 1.5%, so much lower, and no flat fee added like above. So there's that none of that 30 cents per transaction fee, but it does come with the caveat of a $1 minimum and a $100 maximum fee. So that 1.5%, if that is lower, so let's say on a $10 transaction, 1.5%, it's like 15 cents, but we are dealing with a $1 minimum, so it's going to go all the way up to a dollar. In that case, it's more than 2.9% plus 30 cents because of the $1 minimum there. But if you're paying like $70 or more, this actually works out to be much less than either of the above options. And that's when ACH processing becomes a little bit cheaper. Um, I've seen some people ask what happens to the transaction processing fee when a transaction is refunded. Once that fee is taken out, the fee was for processing the transaction. There's no additional fee for processing a refund, but the transaction fee is still maintained. So the fee was for all of the processing that goes into transactions. Um, and so there's the transaction processing fee isn't refunded to the club. Once it's paid, it's paid. There's been some requests for the slideshow. Yeah, I'll make sure that the slideshow is presentable and I'll save it. And what I'll do is when I put this recording on YouTube, I will include a link to download the slideshow as well. And the slides will also be in the recording of the webinar. There's a question: are ACH payments also run through Stripe? Yes. So regardless of whether you're using basic or premium, those ACH payments are still processed through the Stripe payment processor. Um, so yeah, that's how those get run. Someone asked, how can I get a notification when there's been a payment made? If you are set up as your organization's treasurer, so let's take a quick jaunt back over to one of our test clubs. Um, in the control panel, when you are setting up your organization in the club tab of the website, this is a test website, so there's a bunch of bells and whistles turned on. But if we head over to, there's two sections we want to pay attention to. There's titles and there's contacts. So under titles, there should be an option to set someone, define a treasurer, and you'll notice that you want to check the option that says the person holding this title serves as the club treasurer. So once you have a title set up called treasurer or called, financial director or, CFO or something like that, whatever you want to call the person managing your funds, make sure that they're checked off in this treasurer column. And we can leave this page and go over to our contacts option up here under website modules. And in contacts, it might say contact us or contacts. This is where we can come to add someone and use that title. So we can see here, we've got someone using the title of treasurer. And once we've assigned someone, so we would select a member from the database and I can say, hey, um, Marcia Brady is now going to be our treasurer. Whoever is assigned as treasurer there will always get payment notification emails. So whenever a payment is processed on the website, a quick email is sent to their email address. They should also get, if a lot of transactions are run, they should get summaries sent to them as well, letting them know, all the payments that have been made. So you should be getting payment notifications if you are set up as the treasurer. I believe only the treasurer gets payment notifications. If you are, say, like an event coordinator and someone signs up for an event, you'll get notified that someone signed up, but it doesn't always correlate to payment information. So you want to be set up only the treasurer gets every single payment notification. Otherwise, you can just go search for it by running reports or going to the money tab and clicking on things like transaction search. And you can do things like searching by date, show me all the transactions that were run in the last week or something like that. But as far as email notifications, I think it's just the treasurer or the person marked as holding that treasurer position. So there's been a couple questions about how to get to the Stripe. For a couple reasons, I'm not sure of the entire level of details. We don't have a link on the ClubExpress side that goes straight to the Stripe dashboard, but it is simply just dashboard.stripe.com. So again, if we look over here, you can see up in my URL bar up here, it just says dashboard.stripe.com. It should ask you to log in, and you should have the login details as a part of setting up basic payments. That's something you can do, with the help of our ClubExpress support team. As a part of setting that up, an account will be made for you, and those login details should be, stored for your club to access. You can set up additional people. You can give additional people access to it. But really, just once you're setting up that account, it'll give you the login details and you can store that. And I would just say personally, uh, save that, save those login details with either a password manager or however you are, keeping track of those login credentials. And then make sure you just bookmark in your web browser dashboard.stripe.com. Again, just up here, dashboard.stripe.com. And that should take you right to this page. It might have you log in. And once you log in, it'll drop you right on this home page up here, showing you the details so that you can click around through balances and transactions. And just to reiterate, because I find it very important, balances and transactions are the two most important places that you're going to be interacting with funds flowing from ClubExpress into Stripe into your bank account. Balances are the details for, how much funds are currently being stored on Stripe, how much funds are expected to go to your bank account, and then past payouts that have gone to your bank account. So that's very important for tracking funds getting into your bank account. Transactions was where you go to track individual payments that your users have made for, seeing all the individual payments that people are processing on your website. Um, there's a couple questions for things like cash payments or check. We have a couple tutorials and training videos for like specifically geared toward treasurers. I would highly recommend you watch those. In brief, what we do, the when someone is processing check or cash, that does not touch the premium or basic accounts at all because it's not being processed by Stripe. When you deposit that check into your account, Stripe doesn't touch that. There's no fees being collected by ClubExpress or anything like that. When we go over to our control panel, if we actually, I'm going to do this on the other site because I know there's outstanding payments. If we go into our people manager, normally what I see people do is if so and so drops off, let's say George over here drops off a check, we would come over to George. Most likely there will be a dollar sign for a payment because George incurred some sort of fee and decided to mail a check instead of paying online. We can click on that dollar sign and then we would just say we are recording this $9 payment. Instead of credit card, we would choose check. And we would just say, we received that check. And then it's up to you as a club admin to deposit that check into your bank account or deposit that cash into your bank account and just record that you received it. But that doesn't get processed through Stripe at all. Um, Someone asked, why don't membership chairs or admins get notices when someone joined or returned for payments? So the membership chair in that specific case, it kind of depends on what the role is. So the membership chair does get emails. There's an option to go into on the people tab, people options. You can say that membership chair notify membership director is an option in the people options page. And you can say notify the membership chair after a payment for a new sign up is done. But this is again related more to the sign up, not as a payment notification. So different, contacts for different things get contacted in different scenarios. Your event coordinators get notified about event signups. Your membership chair gets notified about membership changes. Your treasurer gets notified about payments. It's all about roles and things like that. And you can set up things like forwarding addresses. So, you can look at our webinars and tutorials about email accounts, but you could say, we want our treasurer email to go to the entire board. And you could set up a forwarding email account that says, treasurer at myclub.com actually just automatically routes to the entire board if you wanted it to happen that way. Um, Someone said they're still confused about how to push the refund from the refund account to the credit card. It's hard for me to demonstrate because it's not an actual live website for actually like demonstrating the process. But essentially, what you do is you head over to the money tab of the control panel. Again, this is the premium payments refund process. For premium payments, you would go to the money tab and go to open credits. And this is where you'll see any canceled transactions that have incurred a credit. So things like event cancellations is the most common one that we see. Will leave a credit behind. And if you have the funds to cover it, in your refund account, then you will see an additional dollar sign next to any credit card or ACH payments that were canceled. If it is if it's a cash or check payment, then there's obviously not an associated credit card for us to push that details, those payment deals back to. So that has to be refunded, likewise, either cash or check or externally somehow, any way that you like. But primarily, what you'll see here for credit card transactions, you'll see an extra dollar sign pop up, and you'll click on it. And then once that happens, once you click on it, it'll pop up a little window that'll say refund amount. You can say I want to refund, all of it, or you can say I want to refund a portion of it. Um, and then you just click refund and it'll start that process. It'll, less the amount of your refund account. So if you have, more than the amount needed in your refund account, then it will uh, uh, drop off, that amount. So if we say we refund, $198 here, it would remove $198 from our refund account. If we don't have enough to cover it, it'll pop up a little error message that lets you know. But again, because I don't have a live site where I can actually refund a real person, it's not going to give me that dollar sign here. So you just click the little dollar sign icon, fill in how much you want to refund, and click refund. You just the again that first step is making sure that your credit card refund account has funds in it to cover the refund that you want. If it doesn't have enough, then you need to add the amount necessary in order to process that refund. It'll debit it from your bank account so that ClubExpress has the money to send to that person. Because again, in most cases, once that payment is refunded, or sorry, once that payment is processed, we send those funds to your bank account, and ClubExpress doesn't have a built-in way for us to then just take money from your account without your authorization. So we have to have you come in and essentially authorize us to pull that amount from your bank account for you to then issue it to that user, that member. I've seen a couple people popping up with questions about PayPal. Going forward, ClubExpress doesn't offer PayPal as a payment option for um, like current or new users. We do still, in a few very specific situations, we are allowing for organizations who have previously been using PayPal to continue to have PayPal as an option. That PayPal integration is it's very similar to the Stripe basic option. The difference is it's even more on PayPal's side. So we are not involved in that at all. The refund process for PayPal is entirely on PayPal's side, and then you still have to do that that whole option where you come back in here and manually mark off that it was refunded. I don't have access to a PayPal option because again we don't support that going forward, so I can't go into much detail on the PayPal option. A really important and really an incredibly very important question in the comments in the Q&A: with subgroup bank accounts, do the processing fees come from the subgroup bank account or the primary account? It does come, so it'll come from the primary account first, and then if a subgroup account is involved, the subgroup account will not have fees taken out. Now if it is solely funds coming from a subgroup account, then the fees will come out of the subgroup account. So if I process a transaction and it is only being processed for a subgroup account and we are only sending those funds to a subgroup, in that case, the fees come out of the subgroup. If we are processing a transaction where the fees are being split up between both, uh, say, the primary bank account and a subgroup bank account, in that case, the fees will come out of the primary account first and not from the subgroup account. If you're using again in this scenario, you're using the premium payments account. You can look at the bank account details and see the details of what fees are coming out of what payments and kind of rectify it that way if you need to. I know that's a big it's a big sticking point for a lot of our organizations that have a lot of subgroup fees. So the the getting those reports right is really important, but primarily it just focuses in on running that bank account activities bank deposit details report and just rectifying all of it and making sure that the correct amount of funds are going to the correct place. I saw a comment that said, please talk, was asking for details about Zelle. Club Express does not integrate with Zelle. So if Zelle is being used as payment, you would essentially process that the same way you do with cash and check. You would just manually record it. And you would just then go mark that as paid by a separate system. So again, if we are processing a Zelle transaction, we would go find someone who owes funds. And instead of marking it as cash or check, we would just choose the option here as separate system. Processed by a separate system, payment notes, Zelle. Again, when someone makes a Zelle payment from their bank account to yours, Stripe does not get in between. ClubExpress does not get in between on that. So that's just strictly between you and that member. And then it's up to your administrative team or your treasurer to then go and record that that payment was sent. Alternatively, someone was asking about, again, with Google Pay and Apple Pay. There's not, when you enable those options and someone lands on this payment screen and they're paying by credit card, when they have their credit card payment option pulled up, if they're on an Android device, it'll just give them the same credit card payment option, but it'll have the little Google Pay icon. They can click on it and it fills in their payment details from Google Pay. There's really nothing that the administrators need to do differently when it comes to Apple Pay and Google Pay. It's all on the user side. And if they have Google Pay or Apple Pay set up, then there's really nothing else they need to do. They just click Apple Pay, it loads in their credit card details, and then they submit pay. On our side and on the administrator side, ultimately it just looks like any other credit card transaction has been processed. And the same is true. Sorry, same is true with Google Pay. So if they're on an Android device, the little Android Google Pay option will show up, and it just works pretty much exactly the same way with both Google Pay and Apple Pay. Just to clarify one more time, on the Stripe and Club Express side, it looks just like any other credit card payment has been processed. Let's see. Someone asked, can you show one more time on the Stripe dashboard? So yeah, one more time. If we head back to the Stripe dashboard for those using basic payments, there's two primary exports I like to point people to. So that's the transaction export. So it's these details right here. And the export options you get are all transactions within a certain time frame. So we can say, show me all transactions. I can hit export, and it's going to just generate an export. And I can even choose to have that export sent to me via email, or I can download the Excel file. It'll just automatically download to my device. That Excel file pretty much looks like what we're seeing right here. It's going to have amount, whether it was succeeded, dollar value. It's going to give these details just in an Excel file so that I can then, sort it in different ways or combine it with other reports. The other report I like to show is the balances export, which again, it's going to give the same details we're looking at here. If I say I want the details about, this bank deposit, we can see here's all of the payments that went into this 197 or $177 payout. Here's all of the details. So $100 or, $10, $10, $10, so on and so forth. And it'll show me the fee that was collected. And if I want to, export that, I can hit the export here, and it'll just export all the transaction details for that payment. And it'll show me, again, just the same details we're looking at here: the type of payment, the, how much was collected, the fee that was withheld, the total dollar value that was earned, the description from ClubExpress, and the date. And then that'll just load into an Excel file that we can, either combine with other things or sort in an Excel file. So someone was asking about transaction details again. So I mentioned this a couple times, but just to be clear one more time, Stripe refers to payments as transactions. Transactions does not line up one-to-one with transactions in ClubExpress. It's just a difference in terminology. So when we're talking about ClubExpress, when Stripe says transactions, ClubExpress means payments. So there's not a way for us to make Stripe show that as payments instead. But transactions, that is the total payment amount for any transaction that is processed through like with credit card or ACH through the basic payments processor. So when we are looking at transactions and we export it, it's going to be total payment amount that was submitted through that ClubExpress basic payment processor. It's not going to give the full detailed screen. Like you would see in, like, say, transactions exports that you see over in ClubExpress. The ClubExpress transactions report is going to show the like details about like what activities they signed up for in an event or what things they bought from the storefront. The Stripe dashboard does not have that level of detail. There's also a question about the customer screen. The customer screen is useful in the Stripe dashboard. It's really just who is processing payments. I don't find it particularly useful as it relates to ClubExpress, primarily because this is intended for people who are using Stripe as like an in-person storefront is kind of the idea. Most of these are going to be either duplicates. It's also going to contain a lot of data, but mostly it's just who's processing payments and why. You'll get this same detail by running any payment or transaction report on the ClubExpress side as well. It's just who are the people that have made payments is all you're getting here. And because it's being passed to Stripe from ClubExpress, ClubExpress has even more detail than Stripe does in this situation. Stripe's just going to have their email, their payment information, and their name. All right. I ran over a little bit as I often do, but I'm going to go ahead. I think questions are slowing down, so I'm going to thank everyone for showing up. Thank you all for attending today. I know it's a lot of detail about payment, but again, the recording of this webinar will be on YouTube in a few days. And I always encourage people, if you have questions, go look at the help system and go over to clubexpress.com and look at the pricing page for more details. Everything I went over today is pretty much in our help system or on clubexpress.com under payment processing. I was just kind of demonstrating what you can read there. So there's always more details about credit card processing. You can see, large breakdowns on our website about what the fees are and how they're calculated. All right. Everyone have a really great day. Thank you so much for coming. And I will talk to you guys later.